You're calling another line?
She just left last week.
We did that.
Okay, we're calling the meeting to order.
Get the weather forecast.
Thank you all for coming. It's great to
Those
see.
people, Richard, to stay here
Well, I agree with you.
because they make good props.
Right. So I want to welcome everybody. Do you want to give the weather report, Keith,
That's what I'm up here for.
to the masses?
And I just wrote up something from Matt here, Matt. There you go.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you, Keith.
I'm going to give my winter outlook. You're the first people to get it because I always issue it on the first day of fall, the autumnal equinox that occurs tomorrow morning or tomorrow afternoon at 4:02 p.m. And then I give my summer outlook always on the vernal equinox, the first day of spring in March. I'm expecting that it will be definitely colder than last winter. I'm being recorded, right, Matt?
Yes.
I gave everybody an awfully good forecast last winter.
Right.
Even to the exact snowfall. So, I want to brag a little bit on that. We're going to have more snow this winter, but not, any terrible amount. I'm thinking about a foot in the city officially and maybe 15, 16 inches in the environs outside the Beltway. It will be colder than last winter, but still mild overall. So, and October looks like it's going to cool down and be pretty nice. And the foliage should be very nice this fall because of the wet summer. So, all in all, not a bad winter forecast. And that's good for the heating bill.
So, and what about the week ahead?
It's going to be 90 degrees.
Oh,
Look for 90 degrees. Look for summertime, coming back here kind of with a little vengeance
when?
for, this weekend and most of next week.
Wow.
But the humidity won't be too bad.
Okay.
But it should be dry. We're in a drought right now. We're going to stay that way going into October. But then it will cool down after about the first week of October and become more fall-like. So enjoy the fall and enjoy the foliage.
Keith, thank you as always for coming and enlightening us. So, would anybody have any comments to make before the council starts?
Who's going to make them?
Well,
They all left.
okay. Eliza, the Community Engagement Committee report.
Shall I stand at the podium? Or...
Well, if you'd like to, it'll be easier for the microphone to hear you.
All right, I put some notes on my phone here.
That's all right.
Alyssa Bean, Turner Lane, and member of the Staff Engagement Committee. We met earlier this summer for our first official meeting, and then we've had some correspondence via email. And I'm representing us just to share two main comments, I guess, or requests tonight. Two items to report, I guess. The first one is the idea of these welcome bags that we are hoping to implement for our new neighbors. Essentially what we're looking to do is have our street captains, I'm the designated street captain for Turner Lane, for example, have an opportunity to have a small stipend or be able to request reimbursement for purchases for these welcome bags. And what we're thinking would make sense is, and I see that there's a small inventory here that we could start with. And basically when we find out a new neighbor is moving in, that we come on up here, take a bag, take a directory, and any other kind of paperwork that we think might be helpful to a new neighbor. And then if there's any extra bottles of wine from various events
Left over from the...
that we could use, start with that inventory, put a bottle of wine in there, and then have, again, just a little bit of cash to use at the market. We were thinking we just buy a one baked good. So maybe a bag of the burger cookies, for example, or just something along those lines. So based on Lauren's sort of guesstimation, we were looking at a budget of about $20 per bag, give or take. And then, let's see, what else did I say? what she kind of guesstimated is about 12 streets, even though I looked at the map, it looks like there's more like 15, but sort of starting with 12 full streets as a starting point, and then guesstimating about 3 new neighbors per year. For some streets, that'll be far less. For other streets, like Charter, for example, there would be more. And then based on that math, she came up with a figure of $720. Again, as needed, $20. So basically, street captains would have the understanding that they have up to $20 per bag to spend on a bottle of wine and a baked good. And so that's what we're looking at. That's item number 1. And so we were wondering if the street captains have permission to move forward with that plan. And also, Matt, if you are able to provide us with information sort of as needed in terms of new families moving in and
Don't we have to make that a budget item, don't we?
Well, we have budget in community activities, and so I would charge it against community activities.
Okay, that sounds good.
And I think that's a very reasonable amount.
okay. And then
I mean, does anybody
Well,
have
Tiffany,
a
you have
thought?
done this before. Do you have any suggestions
No,
from
I
what you
think
had
it's a
been
great
doing?
idea using what we have. Also, we used to go into downtown Bethesda, and I'll remember where it was, to get pamphlets that had like local maps for bike trails and that kind
Okay.
of stuff. I loved getting my bag when I was
Yeah,
a new
I did
resident. We had, we also ordered at some point in time the Chevy Chase A Streetcar to Home, the DVD.
There was a DVD.
We still have some leftovers,
Just put
actually.
that kind of stuff in there.
Sure.
That it gives people a flavor for where they are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And that's all we're trying to do.
Was there something from the
What about
Centennial?
approaching the store and asking them if they're willing to give a couple of like ice cream tickets,
Oh,
in case
yeah.
there's kids,
Yeah, that is
you know,
nice.
to attract the new family to the
Sure.
their store.
There was a
Maybe
DVD
wouldn't
made
be
from the
that much
Centennial.
cost.
Yes. We have a DVD from the center.
There's a DVD from the Centennial that also ought to be available somewhere, somehow.
I think we have leftovers of those as
And
well.
we can make them if we,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, that would be great. I like the ice cream ticket.
Make a suggestion, maybe something, since they're new residents, that the village has their own building code and
Oh, okay, right. Something
Yeah, start.
informative. Do we
Yeah.
have something like that already kind of written up, or?
What is it?
No.
Do we have anything in the directory?
In the directory about the building codes? Yes.
I think there
is it in there?
Yes.
there is a blurb in the directory. I think
Yeah.
there's also we have a sort of welcome letter that we've used in the past that I think also introduces people on a 10,000 foot level at least to it.
And so in that, the directory contains this schedule of when trash pickup is, and
Yes.
so that it would, but I would think that the Welcome Committee would want to make that obvious, you know, to say, here is the schedule that, you know, that's an idea.
Yeah, here's the information that's in the
Right.
directory.
Talking points for
Yeah,
Yep.
right.
So the welcome letter was reduced to one page, pointed them in direction of web resources, and then we
Okay.
used to stick
And
it
is that,
basically in the
and
notebook.
we have that on file on?
Matt does.
Okay,
Yes, I
Okay.
can send that.
that would be great. The next item is the
Wait,
Halloween.
hold on, before we go on, just, there was one comment about if we're given stuff for the bags, sorry.
Yeah, if a village business gives a coupon or certificate for the bag, you may want to ask the other village businesses if they want to do the same.
So meaning the Olympia and, okay.
Yeah.
pharmacy and
Give
lemon
them
twist.
equal opportunity.
Right, right.
Okay, that's a great idea too. Matt, you're taking notes on this?
Yes.
Don't forget some of it. And then I guess the other question would be, is there sort of a system in place already for submitting reimbursement with a receipt attached, or is there a form that we would use, or what would our avenue be?
Just receipt and description.
And description that we just hand deliver to Matt, I guess?
I mean, or do we have some sort of petty cash request? I mean,
I'm also happy
no.
to make a little form, because I was treasurer at Rosemary Hills, and we have
Right.
a form on
I
file.
think that would be to just do it as a reimbursement.
Reimbursement.
Yeah.
We do have a reimbursement.
I think it would be good to have a form just as a
Yeah, for the record.
Yeah.
We need
We
something
have a
for the
reimbursement
record.
form,
Yes.
great. If not, it needs to be
Okay.
updated, great.
Great.
Itemized receipt with form.
Yeah.
And then the next item that we talked about, we've discussed extensively via email, since our initial meeting in person was more sort of delegating these kind of making main categories and then sort of talking about who was interested in what. And now with the next big holiday coming up was the Halloween parade and party, and we talked a lot about that and how could we look to sort of revamp it a little bit. And what we came up with, here's what we're proposing. It's a little bit of a change from previous years. So rather than starting at the end of the street at the cul-de-sac on Turner Lane and having the party and the festivities, and then kind of in the middle of that gathering kids and going up the street, what's been proposed, I know Lauren, I think something similar to this took place in Section 3, and it's always been really successful over there, is to instead start the festivities with the parade, and so actually gather adults in costume, hopefully, and all the kids in costume up at the top of the street here in front of the market area. And once enough of us have congregated, so again, this would take place, let me preface this by saying we're looking to do this actually on Halloween evening, around 5:30 p.m. Neighbors gathering together up top here at the top of the street until it seems to be a majority of us are here and ready, and we would pass out glow sticks or bracelets and maybe noisemakers, and then we'd start our parade going actually down Turner Lane with then the pizza truck and maybe a DJ. Actually, Matt, I think we kind of left that up in the air at the end of the street, and then also just to make it a little more festive for the adults too. So providing pizza and drinks and like a healthy sides table as well. Maybe a little bit of beer or wine for the adults, and then sort of that being sort of the focal point is the parade, and then
Then at
getting
the end,
kids
that sounds good.
fed, which I think is a hard thing to do on Halloween night for working
Yeah.
families. But really kind of
What day of the week is Halloween?
Tuesday?
It's a Monday. Is it
Tuesday the 31st.
Tuesday, okay.
And then basically from that point on, then kids could just go on their
Go
way respectively for their trick-or-treating. But the idea would be to get the, a little bit of dinner in them before they go off trick-or-treating. And then we talked about the ice cream truck. We also talked about some of the arts and crafts activities that we've done in the past. And we kind of are thinking we just sort of bag the ice cream truck because we're getting treats all night. And the main reason we were thinking
Too much sugar.
The main reason we were thinking to do this on Halloween, the evening itself, is just because with elementary school kids who are the majority of the kids who are actually participating in Halloween, they're already doing Halloween stuff like this at school, and just kind of I think it makes it a little more special for the kids to have that dress up time on Halloween, get them kind of excited for kicking off the actual Halloween holiday, and just take a moment to see if there was anything else I wanted to share about that. I think just that, and the fact that we're thinking kind of marching down the street is actually easier
Right.
physically for the kids. And again, just starting with the parade makes it more clear to neighbors who want to come out and watch just what time to be there, and then we can all gather down at the end. So
I'm sort of nervous about the safety issues here, about being right on Brookville and this corner. I mean, I presume you'll be a little bit away from the driveway.
well, I think we meant actually on the strip here.
Oh, okay.
We're on the sidewalk, not in the street.
Right.
Actually on the sidewalk in front of the market.
In front of the
area,
stores and
with adults coming with
Sure.
their children, and then again, once it seems like most of us are there and ready to go and the kids are ready, and also that we would designate one adult who's dressed in a zany costume who's ready to lead the crew down
Right.
the street.
okay.
So that's what we're looking at doing, and we're hoping that sounds.
And what time do you hope the parade would be? 5:30?
So what we would establish is that we would gather at 5:30, and pretty soon after that, I'd say like no later than 5:45, by 5:45 maybe. Lauren was suggesting 5:35. I'm thinking that might be a little too tight. We get like a 15-minute window for those last
Together and
costume
move.
hiccups, and then we congregate on Turner Turner Lane and parade down the
Down.
street with, you know,
Matt,
neighbors
should
inside,
we
you know, on the side.
plan on having a police presence or request police presence at that point?
Yeah, I think they were there I think we just had at least one of our police officers there
Yeah.
last year. I reached out earlier to see if they're available to give out the, like, either blinky lights or
Oh.
reflector lights or something.
Oh, that
I
would be
think-
good.
I think sometimes the police give out stuff
Yeah,
like that for safety.
Yeah.
And even if they came in a squad car, they could also lead the parade.
Oh, put the
Yeah.
siren on and the lights
Yeah,
and everything.
And go down, yeah, it would create,
That'd be fun.
yeah, they would add.
Yeah, I just, what I sort of felt like for the past couple of years is we had a lot of fun crafts going on, but then also like paint but mixed with costumes, you know.
Right.
We want to keep those costumes clean until after Halloween's over generally, and then kind of put the emphasis back on the parade itself, you know, and just keep it a little more simple. And
It also will be light out, still be light out at that
right,
time.
right.
Is
Not
that
much.
when- No, is it, when does daylight savings
I
time?
think
In
it's-
November.
It's
Yeah.
actually after, so I think
Okay.
I think the idea was that after the parade, there's an hour or so of
Yes.
hanging out, eating pizza,
As it gets
this,
dark.
that, or the other,
Yeah.
and then as it gets dark, you know, the younger kids probably will start before it gets dark,
Right.
and maybe the older kids will wait until
out a little bit longer
the
down
sun.
the park.
Yeah,
does
okay,
start
that
coming
sounds
down.
great.
Yeah.
And I right before the meeting this evening, I actually got a pizza truck
Okay.
available for
And
us.
then the DJ, we were kind of going back and forth about, did we end up, I thought it would be just as well to, we have a portable speaker, I have Spotify, you know, tune into like spooky music, and we just actually play that along the parade and then keep it going at the bottom of the street. If we couldn't secure a DJ, that was kind of our plan B.
And
I have a huge portable speaker if you
Oh, you
ever
do?
need it.
Okay.
And I think that the consensus was the
It's on
DJ
wheels.
last year was not
It didn't
Didn't
work.
add anything.
not real good. So unless somebody has a really good suggestion, it seemed like we
Yeah,
we
the
weren't
one
really-
that I knew, he's a father himself now, and he lives pretty far away, so I didn't even ask him because I knew that the answer would be no. So,
So
I don't
gonna
mind
come
just
down.
having some music. I mean, kids, I mean, they're going to be playing around. Or are you thinking they're going to dance and then
no, just
do-
to kind of keep it fun. and
No,
festive,
easy,
you know,
yeah.
with the music, and
Yeah.
again, just like kind of kid-friendly, spooky holiday music.
I think it sounds really good.
So I'll make sure that we have, we did get a call actually randomly earlier this year about getting the license to play music, so I'll
Okay.
follow up and make sure that that's all taken care of.
Okay. And that's it, and I thank you for
Good,
your time.
thank you.
Do you know what Chris Schrader's program with the kids, he was,
I know he's trying to establish an online, I think it's already been established, I have to check because I actually submitted something from my daughter, an online sort of art exhibit for
Right.
kids in the neighborhood, and I haven't been on Facebook in months, but I believe there is a link to it, or somehow it's being shared on Facebook, and I think he was also planning on sharing it in some other capacity, although I haven't seen
Okay.
anything yet, but I haven't been looking either. So, and then, you know, we just encouraged neighbors to join us for the next meeting. I'm not sure when that will be, but I'm sure it'll be coming up soon. And again, we thank you all for being open to letting us establish this committee, and we hope to continue working together to do this kind of stuff.
yeah, well, I think it's bringing some great energy, and we need that.
Well, and also just to kind of take some of the burden off of all of you, because you're doing your part, and also off of the office staff. So, and I know there's
Right.
lots of neighbors who want to get involved, and so.
Well, but I think if the community people get involved, it's going to be more successful than us just trying to put something on. I mean, you'll give it energy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you and all the committee.
Next is
Oh, I better pay attention here, right? Action on the minutes, where the minutes were approved by email. I need a motion to approve.
Move to approve the minutes.
Arthur moves.
Seems like a long time ago.
I had
Oh,
one
what?
request on the minutes, I apologize.
Okay.
Just the comments on the building, public hearing on ordinance 16-17-1. That I had raised concerns that the amended wording could potentially open the door for a lawfully granted permit to be rescinded if an objection was raised. Because I don't want it to be confusing, and we're going to talk about this later, that if the permit requirements are met and the code enforcement officer issues the permit, then that's where the concern arises. If you don't want to revisit it now, I totally understand, and we'll just make the comment when we talk about this.
So did you propose a change in the minutes?
I am proposing one now. I don't know that I did timely via email.
Can you just remind me of the verbiage that you used?
Last paragraph, page 2, the third line from the bottom, I would like it to say, Councilmember Sister raised concern that the amended wording could potentially open the door for a lawfully granted permit to be rescinded if an objection is raised.
Can't find the minutes. Okay, is there a motion to approve the proposed amendment to the minutes?
Do we need that?
Move it, do we have to?
If there's consensus, you can just move for approval of the minutes as amended.
Okay,
As amended.
approval as amended.
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Oppose? Okay.
Thank you.
The building administrator's report. I've moved this up so that if Doug doesn't want to stay for our exciting meetings, that he would be free to leave earlier.
Wouldn't miss it for the world.
Somebody ordered that. Make it last.
Okay, so go for it.
This month we've had one new building permit issued at 3405 Cummings Lane to do an addition to the rear of the house. Construction has begun. Work is ongoing at the Melville, Summit, Thornapple, and Shepherd sites. Everything seems to be going okay, slowly, but they're moving along. One item that Matt and I have discussed at 7210 Chestnut, it's a vacant house. They applied almost a year ago for a demolition permit, but they never completed the process by submitting the bond. Matt's talked to the owner who lives next door, and the plan is that they will get a demolition permit from the village in November and begin work. We've also received complaints about the lawn and debris in the yard, and Wayne has contacted his contact with the county as far as, I forgot what the department is, but the one that deals with trash and roads in that department. And apparently they've contacted the homeowner and said clean it up, but there's really nothing they can do about it.
Do we have anything in our code that we can do about it? We've had residents raise it as a concern as well as
Right.
the council.
So, part of it is that the garage has a hole in it, and so I asked the resident. So what it is the neighbor bought the next door house. I asked them to at least clean up. They had some trash piled up in front of the garage, and they have vines growing on the house and weeds growing in the yard. So I said, at least take care of that. I understand the hole in the garage is
Where's the hole in the garage?
the roof of
Oh, the roof.
of it. So that was one concern is, well, if there's a hole there, are there animals in there? Apparently not. But we probably could find them according to the code.
It says something about keeping the right-of-way clean and clear.
The right of way is clear. There's some, I can't remember the
I can't
exact
read-
wording, but there's
I don't know.
something about the house can't be in disrepair, basically.
I would
So-
think there'd be vermin. I mean, it would attract rats and other animals.
We got a complaint about a year ago about that, and I contacted the county. The inspector came out and looked at it and told me there was no evidence of rodents on the site. That was a year ago.
Ron, do we have something in our code that
Yeah.
gives us entree into that?
Maybe we
Section
should sprinkle some corn.
7202 provides that owners must maintain buildings in a safe and sanitary condition at all times, free from unreasonable accumulation of refuse, kept free of vermin and rodent infestation.
Okay.
The question is a hole in the roof a issue of safety or cleanliness?
The note here, Doug, it says homeowners are planning to remove the existing house in November. Have they filed for a demolition
Not
permit?
yet.
They have one from the county, but I think it's expired.
They don't have one from us
They
either.
submitted one from us, but then when I called them and said we need to submit a bond for that, they decided to wait because they didn't know when they were going to proceed, and they didn't want to have the bond outstanding. But she knows she needs to submit a bond to you when she submits formally in November again.
And is there, do you have a sense that come November, this is really going to happen?
No, I've been talking to him on and off now for a year. Every couple of months they'll send me a message, well, can I do this? Is this allowed? And we'll go over what they can do, what they can't do, and they go back to design. So they've always had,
So they have a builder, they have,
A designer,
they
architect.
have an architect, I don't know about a builder. But Matt talked to him again, and they had, what was the reason he was selling his business?
Yeah, he basically was waiting. He has a deal to sell his business, so he wanted to pay for it in cash. So that's why it was.
So that could take months, just to sell the business.
And tell me again what tell us again our authority.
Well, and you can always report again to the county. The county's
The county has before condemned houses for us.
their health and housing code regulations are much more robust than the villages.
And that Bob Goff, is that who they've been going to? Is that his name?
I reached out to him, and it is. Well, I actually I looked up the report number or whatever
Right.
whatever it's called, and it changed to in progress. So I noticed that today that it changed to in progress. So I didn't get a chance to follow up with them and say what does that mean? Are you they used to respond within 30 days. Now they say 60 days, and it's now 60 business days. So it was at the very end of July. So we're coming right up on 60 business days. So
That's crazy.
yeah. So
the village code provides that owners must maintain buildings in safe and sanitary condition at all times, free from unreasonable accumulation of refuse, free from vermin and rodent infestation.
So is the refuse still hanging around, or have they carted it off?
I'm not
I
sure.
don't know.
I
Have you noticed the
checked
refuse
today.
situation?
what's the remedy
early in the week.
if we don't find, the last 2 points, I don't think we can argue, but the first, the safe and whatever. So
Vermin
what's
free.
our remedy for if we find that they're
The
not?
first step would be to issue a notice of violation. You wouldn't go right
Sure.
to a citation. A notice of violation asking that
So
the violation be abated within a certain amount of time.
So I did send an email to them. So I guess maybe tomorrow what I'll do is check and see if they've taken any action on it. If not, say you have 2 weeks to at least clean up the things that we talked about and agreed that you would take care of. If not, then
And we'd like to know if your plan is still to go forward, because there's a process here that we need
Right,
to engage
right.
with. You've got-
Okay, but But before you say all of that, what if they don't? What is the end? Can we find them? How much?
Let me look.
So if they haven't already, I think his comment was, you give them a defined period of time, and then we can cite them, whatever our citation
Right.
authority is.
But the notice of violation letter would state, a recent inspection of your property has revealed the following violation. You are in violation of section 7202 because, and you explain the violation. In order to abate the violation, this is what you must do. If you don't abate the violation, here are the penalties. And that type of formal letter usually gets folks' attention.
And would that come?
After Matt's friendly reminder.
Yeah.
Well, of course, I would go right to doorway B and get this thing moving. I mean, they've had the polite talk.
But Matt needs to follow up. Matt needs to follow up to see if they've complied with the polite talk. Is that right? You had the.
I haven't checked on it today or yesterday, I guess, so, yeah.
Is
I
that a
talked-
fair next step to follow up on whether or not would you please, they said yes. You can determine whether or not they did what they said yes to.
And the fine's $100
A day?
a day.
So
Per violation?
when there was a comment on the listserv, I reached out to the resident with an email, and they called me back within 15 minutes of that, and I had a conversation with them where they gave me a spiel about this is why nothing's happened, what would you like me to do. So as I said,
Right.
I told him get rid of the trash, get rid of the vines, get rid of the weeds. So
Clean it up.
That was September 14th, the day the email came
okay,
in.
so a week ago, yeah.
Is a violation high grass, another violation is debris, another violation would be a hole? So is that $300 or is it $400?
Under the county code, but not village code. We don't have.
So it's just maximum $100 a day.
So what do we have to do to get the county
Which is a lot.
more involved?
I mean, I can
Get
keep
Bob Goff on the phone. Yeah.
keep trying to reach them. I've tried calling a couple times.
Do they not respond, or?
No.
I can get the name of the lady that Wayne talked to, and I'll call her.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's has been in the village, and she was working on a property over on North Delfield for a while. They had some debris in their backyard.
Okay.
She got them to clean it up.
When the condemning of a house is before my time.
I
When
don't
and what
recall.
was the justification?
It was infested and falling down, and it wasn't being lived in anymore. The owners were not even in the state, I
That was
think.
before I don't know that.
And so they, the county came in and said, you have so many days to either clean this up or take it down, and they took it down.
Okay. Thanks.
So I don't know what street it was or where it was.
Doug says it's a long process.
Yeah,
Okay.
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 Anything else, Doug?
Just one other thing, it's on the list, but I'm still working with the State Highway Administration to try to get the intersection up in Brookville and Bradley fixed. I finally went to the direct division manager up at Greenbelt, which is this area, and he assigned me to somebody else, and then I've been working through him. And finally, when I got hold of him last week, he said, remind me again why you're calling. So I went through the whole process again, and I sent him the photographs again. And he finally came back to me, and he said, well, I'm in maintenance. This is not a maintenance issue. So I'm
Gosh.
back now to the division manager, trying to get somebody else assigned to fix it.
This is water collection. Is there a leak again, or is it just?
Now, the intersection was built poorly, and water's ponding on the northeast
So
corner.
it's just the slope?
The lake.
When it
Yeah.
ponds, it backs up into the handicap ramp. And I told them that it's going to freeze and people walking on it, kids on the bike, but also it flows into the intersection. Somebody can hit that when it freezes and hit a pedestrian also.
Right.
And the manager over at Chevy Chase Village said she would help any way she could because she's concerned about it also.
Okay, good, good.
Just finding somebody to come out and look at it is the problem.
Where are we on the state, because we love to talk about Brookville Road, the intersection of Taylor and...
Yeah, I have that in my manager report. We can talk about it now, or
Save it for the,
then.
I said, oh, I have.
Okay.
Okay, moving on.
Discussion on ordinance 6-303, which requires the village to wait 7 days after a county permit has been issued. Wasn't the issue that we delayed this because we were looking for new language?
We delayed it for discussion. We removed from the ordinance that was recently adopted any amendment to this particular section so we could have further discussion on basically whether or not the council needs a review period before Doug is able to issue a permit. Right now the code provides that if 2 council members in reviewing a permit find that the permit should be reviewed at a meeting, you can instruct Doug not to issue the permit and it'll be put on the agenda for the next meeting. We were going to delete the reference to the 7-day window because it also serves as a delay period from which the issuance of the county permit. So the code provides that Doug has to wait 7 days after someone gets their county permit before the village permit can be issued, so that the village council can decide whether it wants to trigger a hearing.
Okay, go ahead, sorry.
The utility of that hearing might be limited because all you'd be doing is reviewing basically whether the code is complied with. I mean, there may be an instance where you want to ask Doug about an interpretation issue, but I don't think it's ever happened in 11 years that I've been around.
So is the process that if someone submits for a permit, Doug would be notifying the council then reviews this permit, because that doesn't necessarily happen today.
Right.
No.
Right, so we're updating our...
that now.
Okay.
But here's a scenario where a permit request to submit it, he approves it, and a neighbor says, you're completely misinterpreting things. It was inappropriately approved. And then right now, if we take out the 7 days, 2 council members could agree, you've made a case, we will have a hearing on this. So that
Which is your point.
yeah, that safety valve is still there.
But so here's my 2 kind of parts of this. One is we have a code enforcement officer, and I believe that we delegated the responsibility to Matt to manage the code enforcement officer.
No, Matt is the code enforcement officer who delegates responsibility.
Right. So
to
I think, when someone's got measurements out for the code, we're expecting that our professional staff is able to provide that guidance. Either it meets the code or it doesn't. My concern is, I think this arose initially that there was some unnecessary delays.
Right.
That we know that somebody's met county code, we know that they've met our code, we're making them wait 7 more days before we'll issue our permit. If we're deferring to our professional staff for them to determine whether or not something meets the code, then I don't know why we would keep the 7-day.
And because there's still an outlet that 2 council members could lodge a what does it say about
Within a
2
certain
council
amount of
members?
time, or...
Yeah,
The way it was written last time, we struck the 7
The 7 days out.
and that's what raised my but then we could wait months.
Right. Right, so I feel like it's...
So right now, the code says 2 council members can divest staff of the ability to issue the permit and can make the applicant come to the next council meeting, and the council will review the permit at a council meeting and decide whether the permit should be issued.
That's still there.
That
remains.
That's in the code right now, yes.
Yeah.
The only I'm sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
But yet we don't have a process wherein the council knows of each permit that's being issued. So it's a safety valve that is not currently usable.
What would have to happen is that somebody would have to object to it, raise the objection to a
But how
council
can you object
member,
to something you're not aware of?
a neighbor.
Adjoining and confronting neighbors do receive notice as soon as the application is filed.
Building manager.
Can I briefly just go over the whole process?
Sure.
When an applicant submits to Montgomery County, they, by your code, they have to submit an application to the village within 3 days. Once we get that application, I quickly do a review, we get the check, and then if I have any comments, I meet with the architect or the builder or the owner and try to resolve it. But it sits anywhere from a month to 2 or 3 months until the county has done their final review. Then the applicant submits stamped county plans and a building permit to Matt. I look at those plans compared to the old plans. If they have any comments, we resolve them. And then, I meant to back up. Once we get the plan, Matt sends a notice to the adjacent property owners and to the council saying that the plan has been submitted. So you all have a notice when it comes in, and you have anywhere from a month to 3 months sometimes to say, I want to look at it, or for neighbors to come in and say, I want to look at it. You all have a meeting now if it's a demolition and a reconstruction permit, so that shouldn't even be an issue anymore. But there is time for you all to get involved.
Is that when the county is doing its process?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
After I've done my review, and as far as I'm concerned, they've met all of the village setback requirements. and
Okay.
height requirements. So there's plenty of time for you all to be involved, and you are noticed. The citizens are noticed also.
Okay.
But Doug, remind me, when we talked about this back in, was it July? We were talking about some hypotheticals. Is it possible for someone to apply to the county and the village and get a permit for something in a couple days? And I thought the answer at that time was yes. There are
Yes.
some projects that can be approved immediately, which sort of threw a wrench in the works. And
A bay window possibly could be a couple of days, but any addition is going to take, because of mechanical and structural review, it's going to take at least a month.
The one another circumstance where it could come up is like we had on Raymond, where if the applicant then changes their plans, and if I, for instance, just said, I'm not dealing with this, sure, whatever, do whatever you want, without giving the council the opportunity. But
That's a management issue.
well, and I would say that you're not necessarily informed of every change in the plans along the way anyway. So I'm not sure when. I don't know. It seems like it's making a plan for something that doesn't really occur.
So what are we solving for? Are we trying to simplify the process?
Simplify
for
and
the
shorten. If it's
Yeah.
a bay window and it goes bang,
owner?
bang, bang, why should we have them wait an extra week?
Okay.
We just had a situation where they submitted in July, they got a county permit at the end of August, and because of the waiting period, we couldn't issue our permit until September 11th. And it didn't violate, and it wasn't even close to any of your setbacks or height requirements. So it was just basically a rubber stamp.
Right, but it added a delay into their process.
Right.
So we're trying to
Which is an
eliminate that.
issue, but then the way that I read this, and maybe I'm misinterpreting it, so if I am, let's talk about it. But this says the 2 council members could trigger this review. The only way for the council members to know is for Matt to communicate more clearly, which actually adds more work and more complexity.
Or a neighbor.
Or a neighbor.
Or anybody, you happen to walk by and you say,
well, how does it happen now when you get the application? You email the council members and say, we got this application.
there's a letter, usually you just send out a letter.
Not on a small project like this, like the bay window example. that's not something that we have, there's no system we have set up where the council gets a daily report on this application was submitted today. We could do that, but there is no process like that currently.
So as this was originally drafted, and it's in your books, the red line version, we were thinking we can delete the 7-day review period.
Right.
Because for a big project, like Doug described,
There's plenty of
there's going to be 1 to 3 months
Yeah.
of time for you to report. I'm sorry, for you to raise an objection. So we didn't think a specific express window was necessary in the code. If you want to include a specific window, we could leave it in there.
So my thought is
And
just
another
delete.
option,
Sorry.
right, another option is to delete the council review altogether. If you don't really,
I think there has to be some kind of a safety outlet here for,
Why?
because there could be a misinterpretation that a resident picks up and says, I read the code and this building's too high. I think
So that
You did
should
it
be
wrong.
resolved by the manager and the code enforcement officer.
Well,
So can we talk through an example? I think that will help me process information. So there's a new permit that was issued, right, for an addition somewhere in the village on Brookville Road, right?
Shepherd, yeah, I'm coming. Or you just issued a new permit for the back of what?
It doesn't matter where.
Yeah,
A
yes,
new permit
yes.
has been issued. Okay, so the council in this scenario, so I'm not aware of that until this meeting.
Unless you're a neighbor or,
Okay, so at this point, so for that particular permit, the council is relying on the neighbors to raise a concern.
But what I believe is happening is that a project that is significant beyond a bay window or adding a porch, that the council is notified along with the neighbors that there is an application for building. Is that true?
yeah,
But we
because
weren't
we're going to
notified
have,
of this permit. That was
no,
just issued.
because if there's going to be a meeting, a pre-construction meeting, oh no, that's before construction, not,
what about this? Maybe
Not-
this
And after a
application.
permit has been issued and it's a
right,
done deal by
right,
then.
right.
This
you're
might be a
right.
big hassle, but when you put together your letter for adjoining and confronting neighbors, what if you just put a CC at the bottom
Yeah.
of council?
Yeah,
That would
Send
solve
it
the
to
problem.
Google Groups.
I thought Beth did that.
We do that. But
It hasn't
I-
happened with this particular instance. Or at least maybe I'm forgetting, but I don't remember seeing it. That would address the issue of notifying the council.
but you're saying that these don't go out for every single permit.
not if, no. I
Not if it's mine.
not if it's,
minor.
yeah.
So if
they're
the abutting neighbors have to be notified, can we just institute the practice of copying the council, which would
Yeah.
address that issue?
I
Right.
think that's
So would
already
that-
happening, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay.
So, yeah, so that's the question, is that well, that is an instance where we would get the application, we send out notice that says we received this application, it gets reviewed by in those instances, there's no question because there is time there.
Unless the plans change and then there's no second notification.
Yeah, I don't think that I'm trying to think, I mean, there's only one instance where the plan kept changing that I can recall, and I
the
don't.
council is heavily involved
Yes. Agreed.
without this.
But there have been instances where a person wanted something small, like a bay window. They said, I went to the county, I went there today, I got my permit today. We don't, in that instance, send out a neighbor notification. And so there is no council notification, there's no neighbor notification. We
Is that
just sit
because
on
there's
it.
no change to the setbacks, or?
Because it's, I mean,
Like, where's that line?
What was he?
Where's
just-
the line if
Oh,
it's a
where's the
major
line?
construction
It's
versus
somewhere up
minor?
there. It is.
I don't know that there is. I would have to go back and check the code to see if there's
A trigger.
see
I
what
don't
there
know.
is. I mean, I know that there's the square footage, but that's for the pre-construction meeting.
I think the notice requirement applies to any building permit.
Right.
Major
so then-
or minor?
Yes.
So then we could address this by
Yeah.
simply copying the council.
Right.
For every application.
And then we can remove the 7-day review
Yeah.
period,
Yeah.
because the council will be aware, will be able to use the,
Well, no, I would say we'd have to keep, if the council has the authority to review, we need to have a time limit on that review.
how long we can take.
Yes.
But what we're saying is that
Agreed.
we're going to be notified and, the process is going to move forward. If we have objections, we have to get them in. You
Within
can't
7
wait.
days.
Within 7, if that's the,
No, but
7 days from the application?
no, I wouldn't put in the days. I
True,
would
because that could
think
be hairy too, because
we've
if
got 2
everything
months
changes.
to register objections and not at the point it's about to be approved, then we come in and say, wait,
well, but then I'm worried that if we don't time limit it, not that anybody on this council would ever do that, but the permit could be issued and then somebody could raise, well, wait a minute, no. Could we do that 2 weeks after they started construction? 3 weeks?
well, why don't we take the 2 members out?
I think we should just strike everything from however to application should be considered by the council. If the code enforcement officer
Right.
determines the requirement articles have been satisfied, the officer shall issue the permit. If the code enforcement officer determines the requirement articles have not been satisfied, the application shall be denied.
I think that's fine with me. How do you feel? So that from however,
And you're eliminating
however, this
council
pen
abuse.
So
doesn't
that,
write.
yeah,
Arthur was,
yeah. That's, even though it's never been used, to my knowledge.
I'm just trying to put on the kind of the hat on in a different situation, like obviously not the current code enforcement officers, but do we want to completely rely on the one person?
That's the
what if it's-
question.
if
So
their
this is where I would
decisions
say
are-
that goes to a management issue, right? Like if there's an objection or concern raised and it is brought to the attention of our village manager, I would expect the village manager to treat it an objection or concern from a resident, from a council member, whatever, so then there needs to be a discussion.
I kind of agree with Tiffany, but suppose, Ron, after the event, after a permit has been approved,
Yes.
and somebody raises, can they legitimately raise an objection and say there was a misinterpretation of code here? That the building is too high and call for a re-examination? Is there,
We've had that happen, and I think that some of us might have regretted the engagement, involvement in that, and not supporting our
yeah.
staff.
But is there a legal
yes.
the grounds for somebody, is there a way that legally for somebody to raise that kind of an objection?
Yes,
There is.
if there's an error of law. A
Okay.
permit that's issued in error conveys no rights. There's-
Okay, so we have,
Case
okay,
law.
let's strike it. We don't need,
But-
Doug has a,
Rather than tying it to the date the county issues a permit, can you tie it to the date they submit to the village?
we're just gonna strike the whole thing unless somebody objects.
yeah, get rid of all of it.
But I would say that you don't want to be in that position. It's much better, 99%
Right.
better
To avoid
catch the error in advance.
Yeah.
You don't want to rely on the ability to tell someone their permit is unlawful after it's already been issued.
Yeah.
They can, under certain circumstances, vest rights, if they're pouring concrete footings and
Okay, so can we have a motion to strike the language from however all the way down should be considered by the council?
So moved.
Are you comfortable? Okay. A second?
I'll just prepare a new ordinance, because there's other places where we have to make similar changes.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Well, so do we approve this or not?
There's no ordinance on the table tonight. This was just a discussion.
Okay.
So we can't move on it.
Right.
Okay.
You'll direct me to write up a new
So-
ordinance for next month.
You,
Council has been directed by council
right,
to revise.
right, the council directs the council.
If in your
To remove the council review.
To remove the council.
you see something.
To remove the council of the council.
Please raise it.
Oh my. Life's got to be easier than this. Annual survey. We're ready to move on? Annual survey.
This will not take as long. So we've done the survey twice now. I think it's important to keep the language of the questions very similar so that we have, or the same for most questions, so that we can have statistics year to year. So,
Thanks, Doug.
Thanks, sir.
thank you, Doug. So my proposal is that we go through each question, decide whether we want to keep it, strike it, reword it, and then I'll send out or I'll work with Matt or Tina to send out an updated version, and then we can post it within a week, hopefully, and open it for residents.
For 2 weeks, isn't that
2
what we?
weeks. Within a week, I'm hoping to get to the final language and then open the survey
Right.
to residents for 2 weeks.
Because I think we did it the same last year where it was the first week of October for 2 weeks.
We
Yeah,
also met in August last year, so it made it a little bit easier, but
okay.
okay, anyway. Overall, how satisfied are you with village operations? I think we should keep that.
Yeah.
And
Agreed.
And allow for a comment if you said dissatisfied
Yes.
or very dissatisfied.
Please describe, right.
If you have contacted the village office within the last year, how quickly did staff respond to you? I think we should keep that.
Yes,
Same question for the council. How quickly did the council respond to you?
yes.
Next question was about our budget and how we spend it or allocate it. This was basically asking residents to rank the services that they received in terms of their importance to them. I think this created actually a lot of confusion because it provided an illusion that we're going to remove some of the services. So, how do you feel about removing it altogether?
Okay, I would like that last question about village-sponsored community events. I'd like to hear people's views about that.
Okay, so
But add a question about community events.
So if we specifically want to target that, I think that's fine. We can
Yeah.
add it at the end
Yeah.
of the survey and just keep it for the 1 year because
Right.
we can survey hot topics that way.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Why don't we
We just
just,
explicitly state that we're not, sorry, excuse me.
if you took out
We've
the
tried to reword
language,
this several times and it's still confusing.
if we took out which services would you like the village to continue to provide, and just go rank in order, which is the most important.
Right, that's what we were asking here.
Right, but I'm saying that if you drop which services would you like the village to continue to provide, gives the impression that we aren't going to provide some of these services.
I
And
see.
then they can just rank their value. Because I think it's useful for us to know,
So which services do you value the most
yes,
or the most important to you?
right.
No, just, right,
Just leave it.
that's just
Delete
the
the
sentence,
sentence.
just the
Which
sentence,
services?
rank in order of importance.
Just take out the second.
Just to take out the
Another
third sentence,
thought would be
which
if the
services.
ranking, if you're concerned that the ranking is making people feel like the last one's going to be dropped, you could just, instead of ranking them, which services would you like the village to continue to provide? One,
but
one
then-
being not at all, 5 being.
That's where we started, but then...
But
Yeah,
then
it's-
then
it's too
people,
confusing.
yeah. I think that
Okay, so just strike sentence
this, yes,
3.
which service would you like the village to continue to provide?
Yeah, just-
To
yeah.
provide.
Yeah.
I feel like I can't talk, my lips aren't moving. Okay, and I think then
Matt, did you get that?
So
Which, that one sentence can be knocked out.
it's in the
which
second
services-
line.
Okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
okay.
All right, then the next two questions indicate any additional services and then removal of services. And we actually provided some ideas there. I think we should replace both of these questions with an open-ended, would you like to see any changes in services, and people can type theirs in, as opposed to us suggesting something.
So you said add more, or, I mean, additions or
Right,
or
additions or reductions.
deletions.
Okay, yeah, I agree.
Okay.
So these two will come out and just be...
Correct. It will be a text
Open-ended.
question on if you'd like to see any
Okay.
changes to services. Then the next question was, I believe
So everybody, it'll be harder to statistically analyze, but I agree with the change.
well, the issue is that if we ask something consistently and someone says, yes, I'd like to add this, and then we don't do it,
Totally hear
right?
you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we don't go into any implications of adding, but we
Right.
won't be able
Right,
to
exactly.
say who.
And also, we've chosen not to add it because of cost or other things, or maybe it's just a couple of residents who want it. Excuse the percentage if no one responds. Okay. Next question was, I believe the enforcement of the building codes has been fair and effective. Should we keep that one?
I think so.
Do you? Well, most people have no opinion. I mean, the only one who's going to have an opinion is somebody who's been,
Yeah, but I think
But I think
that,
that's okay. We can find out why.
yeah,
okay.
And the fact that we spend a significant amount of our budget on this
Oh, that's
question.
true,
yeah,
yeah.
Yeah. And then there's an open-ended question to explain your response, please.
right, I like that.
Okay. What is the most effective method of communicating information to you? I think we should keep that one.
I agree.
Can we add options to either of these?
Sure.
So the two, and I'm learning from the engagement committee, not volunteering us to do this so other people have to weigh in, but I guess there's a new Facebook, we have our own Facebook page, correct?
Well, we did at one time, but they were supposed to be setting one up. I
They
submitted,
have.
Theirs.
I've
it's
applied-
theirs. But do we have our own Facebook page?
We have one that is not active.
Okay.
So I could
So social
log
media?
in and start it back up again if you wanted me to.
No, it's a general question of, I think we decided not to for reasons of the implications that Ron went into in greater detail, but I just put it out there for some.
The young people on this committee say, that they don't use the listserv at all. They just want Facebook.
although
And-
Alyssa said she hasn't been on Facebook in 3 months or something.
Right, well then, that's right,
just
and
one
they
person.
they got more people writing saying, I don't want to use Facebook, than they almost got of people who did take Facebook.
So maybe we don't change this question this year and ask next year, because they'll have a full year under their belts for the engagement committee, like how did that
Okay, that's
process go?
fine. Sounds reasonable.
Okay,
Okay, what kind of information would you like to receive from the village office? Should we keep that one? Add anything to it?
Is there only, Matt, do you want to add like a building thing? Because that was one of the things we added to the newsletter based off of resident feedback, was notice of building permits being issued or something like that. I don't know if that's a word.
and that's included because we put Doug's report in the newsletter.
So I'm sorry.
Would we add, just what kind of information would you like to receive from the village office? We've got notice of upcoming events, notice of issues under consideration, permits issued, building permits issued.
Sure. Yeah. That's.
I mean, I don't know. We put it in the newsletter in response to people's concerns.
Well, I think maybe the reason it's not in there is because I think in the code it says something about list of permits issued will be published in the next newsletter or something.
Okay.
But I mean, if
But I think it's
people
all
don't
about
want it, then you
perception
can
of
change the code.
communication. Too, right? So you
I'm
can.
sorry.
I think it's about perception of of what they want to be communicated to them. So even if we post it on the website, but they'd rather have that as a push communication. I mean, if that's
Right,
particular
I see.
interest, you may need to do it twice too.
Yeah, this isn't. Yeah, that's true. This is not only for newsletter information.
Although we do have other in here, and I don't know if we've gotten responses with.
There's a few
That
responses.
request.
I
But
don't recall if people put in.
26, isn't it?
There were 26, were there notes?
There were notes.
Yeah.
I guess we didn't print them.
I would guess
I think the
that,
notes were in one of the,
It's just one of the views, it just wasn't printed.
yeah.
So let's take this as a follow-up item to see what was in there.
Not worth tying in a ditch over, not worth delaying, but if you see something that's a
Yeah.
reasonable add,
Right, okay. All right. Next one was a question, which was
I'm
a,
sorry, what did we decide to
To
or
look at them
we're going to
and
check and see what the
if there's
responses
anything
were?
that's worth adding. And if not, just keep it the same. Next question was the hot topic question of adding leaf bags, right, last year.
Topic.
Since we're starting this pilot, I don't think it makes sense to keep this question in.
Yeah.
But we can
At
do a
this point,
small follow-up survey
follow after
afterwards.
the
Right.
event.
2 questions or something to see. So
Okay.
striking that for now. Okay. Next question was, do you believe the last election was conducted in a fair and open manner? Keep
I
that.
think that's indeed.
Asking for volunteers, I think we should keep that. And do you have anything else to add? We should keep that.
Yeah, the volunteers elicited the committee,
Yeah.
volunteer committee.
Okay, and then, so you wanted to add a question on community events.
Yeah, since, and the question, the way of framing it is the issue. We could list the community events we've had to remind people of what we've done, and
But how would you
I don't
ask
know.
that question? Do you,
Did you participate in list the 5 events, yes, no? And then maybe a question of, would you like to see an
You-
additional event? If so,
Like,
what?
yeah, what additional event would you like, or events would you like to see?
added or subtracted.
Does that get at what you want?
Yeah, added or subtracted.
Right,
Did you participate is the first part.
right.
And then,
And list the event, so that gets
Yeah.
people's mind.
They have to
It
yes,
kind of focuses
no.
them.
Right. So-
we did these events throughout this past year. And then the question is,
actually, I think that would be probably an excellent question to keep year to year. We
Yeah,
can list
right.
everything we've done.
Yeah.
And see
Yeah.
if there's no.
Because when I first came out of the council, and I went up and down the street asking people, what they were interested in, and everyone said, get rid of the public, get the community events. The first meeting I come in here, everyone said community events are the most important thing the council does. And from that point on, I've been confused,
Just then, Arthur.
just then, about those questions, those issues.
Okay. Okay. Financial reports.
Financial
That was
reports.
good.
yes, thank you.
It's too early to say anything interesting about financial reports. We've had 2 months in the fiscal year, not much action. And in fact, I say here, we will not know until the end of November what our major revenues will be from the state income tax. So I thought we'll have a better idea at that time where we stand, and we'll be able to take up this issue that we've been discussing of revising the property tax at that point.
Okay.
That's it?
Okay.
And
Yeah.
there was the way I organized it was
there were-
Arthur's report, and then July and August to catch us up, and then there's
Oh, right,
there's a list of
I forgot, I always forget about
items
that.
after they've gone, now that we have an audit version of the June financials, there are a couple of items that the budget needs to be
Right.
straightened
Amended.
out, so it needs to be amended.
I always forget
I
about
believe I highlighted the items
Oh, good, thank you.
in
this,
yeah, but
yeah.
not on the, and then now I'm realizing I should have done it as well on the treasurer's report itself, so I apologize for that. So the
that are over
where's
insurance.
the first is 50/30 insurance, 50/65 telephone.
Well, let's do them one at a time.
All right.
50/30 insurance, we are $600, so we'd have to add a plus 700. let's say.
But now, wait a minute, that would be for,
We know the exact number, right? So it's 616.
Yes.
It's just easier to work around. I'm gonna, go ahead. What was the next one?
Telephone, so 5065.
So that we could do it with 300, right?
What are you guys
what numbers are you looking at? This should be for June, for the end of the last fiscal year?
Right, this is June 2017.
But I don't see are the June numbers here?
Yeah, see, here's the letter he wrote.
And then right after.
Yeah, down
Right,
here.
no, don't go
And then
there.
right after
After
that.
that.
Oh,
Right
after that.
Yes,
Oh,
okay,
here's
there
the,
we go.
oh, sorry,
Maybe
I didn't see
non-intuitive,
those.
I was just trying to separate
Right,
that.
right,
Looking at
sorry.
July and August.
Right.
Okay,
So on page 1, there's, if you under expense, 5030 insurance, 5065 telephone,
Right.
and then the next one is professional fees, 5222 building review and permits, worth exactly $1,000.
Yes.
Tree replacements is on page 3.
15.
5515, yep.
$376. These aren't really biggies.
so
No.
that one we can make, what, 400?
Yeah.
So Matt, do you know what the
What was it?
differences were? The insurance, the telephone, the tree, do you know what these all are? Are these expected? Obviously not expected, early enough for us to make a change, but
Let's see. So, I didn't go back and check what tree replacement was. Our budget last year was based off of the budget the year before, so it could be with the centennial tree. That one extra tree bumped us over.
But then for phones and insurance, that's probably more recurring, and so we may need to adjust the budget for the following year.
That's right. Yes.
and that is, thank you.
Okay.
That's where we go. I would say that for all of them. I need to know why.
Okay, it's a total of 2,900.
Oh, okay. Did you went through the rest of them?
Oh, is there still more?
Yeah.
Yes. There's the right-of-way landscaping. So 5518.
Okay, oh, that needs $900.
And community events.
I added 500 to that.
And then the last one was the designated streets. So
Does
That-
it? Oh, I'm sorry.
the easiest way to do that might be if you just
combine
combine
accounts.
streets and
Streets and
sidewalks.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's actually, we're under budget on those combined. It's just that because all of the bills went to ABVers, it didn't
In
get,
streets, yeah.
it didn't get delineated
Okay,
between
yeah.
street versus
That would make
sidewalk
me much more
and
comfortable.
paper.
Yeah.
Significant.
So now we're at 18, 28,
200.
28, $3,800. And I think we can take all of that from,
Wait, that's not. wait,
That's not the total.
I think it's 2,800 is what I got. Or no, I'm sorry. You're right, 3,800.
right, I've got 3,800. And if we go to, I saw one of these.
Tree maintenance.
Tree maintenance,
Is way under, so let's take
13,000.
let's take 3,800 out of tree maintenance. And just move it to those other categories. And then, because we aren't increasing the total, that's good, right?
And I think we have to do what Matt suggested and combine the designated
Yes.
street
Yeah,
fund and the
and the
designated
sidewalks.
sidewalk.
Right, and I agree with that too. So, do we need an emotion, an emotion?
I think to combine accounts, do we need to move to do that, or is that simply an accounting?
That's just an accounting. If you're not reappropriating, you don't.
No.
Motion.
Okay, so this isn't a reappropriation?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
And but we do need a motion to accept the treasurer's report?
Yeah.
I move to accept.
Second?
A second.
All in favor?
Okay.
Aye. Opposed? Manager's report.
So the audit obviously is underway, so we're working with them.
Well, let me just add, I forgot to add the thing. I got a call from MLGIP, the Maryland Local Government Insurance Pool, where we have our money deposited. They're having their audit done, and their auditor wanted to know what we have in our account for them,
Right.
and compare it with what they have, which was correct to the penny. And they were very thankful that nobody's siphoning money off
Right.
in either side. So we're not the only, everyone gets audited, and that came out well. Okay, go ahead, sorry.
No problem.
So how much money do we have in there? Okay.
A lot, it's in here. Oh, no, like $3 million.
Okay.
Undesignated, well,
Both Tina and I have gone through the process of becoming a notary public, so that service is available to residents free of charge.
And that was Matt's first.
And Katya, yes.
oh, congratulations.
Notary public.
She's been officially notarized.
Yep. The office redesign and orientation had a couple of meetings, so we have talked to a few electricians and a couple handymen about reorienting the office. There's a couple of, aside from the plan itself,
These chairs are awesome, by the way.
Yeah.
Much better.
there is the question I think we still have is about these the black chairs versus the fold-up chairs and whether we want to replace them or not. I think the original design called for replacement chairs, but just because we have the money doesn't mean we need to spend the money.
I agree.
You should be Secretary of State.
So, office, sorry, moving ahead, Halloween party, Alyssa kind of touched on that. Other events, we started to look into the possibility of doing other potential events, including maybe another wine event at La Ferme. We do need to do some sort of Arbor Day, which doesn't have to happen on official Arbor Day. Arbor Day, it can be whenever, but as part of the Tree City USA certification, we need to have an annual Arbor Day celebration. So that could be a tree planting, it could be a scavenger hunt, of essay contest, it can be any number of things. So I had one meeting with Paula about some potential ideas.
Scavenger hunt sounds fun.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I thought,
Could give a little.
yes,
Maybe we can plan for the spring. Just give us enough time to plan. But
Yeah, it's April.
yeah, I think we wanted to move away from doing something super didactic and maybe a little bit more engaging and fun. Get people to actually come out to it rather than have somebody talk about trees and one or two people show up.
Name that tree.
Right, right. So the website, I sent her. I sent you a new link? Did the new link work for
Haven't
you?
tried it, no.
Haven't tried it. Okay.
Did you send it to me today?
No, I think maybe yesterday or the day before.
Sorry.
No problem. So on Monday, we're going to have training, and then it should be up and running. So
Will you resend?
yes, absolutely. Yes, I will resend it. It still needs to be filled in, but it will give you an idea of what it looks like and everything.
Will it be filled in by Monday, or it will, does that mean?
When it goes live, it will have the information.
Yes, we'll do the training. Part of the training will be how do we fill this information in with the up-to-date stuff and what we want to actually put on there. And as soon as that's ready, we say the word and they'll switch.
But
us over.
it isn't, on Monday, you're not going live yet?
Right. No.
Okay.
Right. Contracts. So also next week we're going to sit down with two of the GIS contractors that submitted a proposal for us. Leaf vacuuming.
Wait, before we...
sorry.
I don't want to do anything that's procurement sensitive. The bids that we got were significantly different based on the scope of work. Where did we end up on what our plan is to go forward?
That's sort of that was part of the interview process I wanted to have with them to see how, because one of them is not going to.
Wait, so should we do this later?
Well, do you want to discuss the merits of individual bidders
Or the
just
specifics
or just the process?
Specifics of individual proposals.
So, the
If you've
discussion
got
of
general question.
general questions could be done now, but if you want to discuss the merits of individuals, we could use the personnel exception to go into closed session. But generally speaking, contracting and evaluating bids is a quasi-legislative function, which is done in the open.
So my question is, if other members of the council or Matt, after reviewing the additional, share if we're going to do this, we should do it now and not potentially rely on not enough data and that we've had in the past. I don't know how to say it.
We can either look at it from a purely from the standpoint.
What's the issue? I don't understand what the
We
issue
either
is.
start from scratch
And pay the price for that.
and pay the price for that.
Or we continue to use the vendor, but we pay a price for that too in order for them to get it all updated.
And we're not even sure whether or not they would actually be able to update to what we want based off of what they currently
And we're still
have.
talking about the website?
No, we're talking
We're
about
talking about
GIS.
the survey that I think
Sorry.
we had
Mapping.
discussed. We want to have additional functionality on it. Sewers, sidewalks, streets, trees in the right of way.
Another concern that at least one resident has raised to me on Turner Lane specifically, but I think it might be an issue on other streets, is when the original measurements were taken, they took the end of Turner Lane and then the other end of Turner Lane and divided it up and said that's about where each property line is. And it's actually caused a lot of issues on Turner Lane, and there's a resident that their fence is like 2 or 3 feet in their neighbor's yard according to the information we have, and it's not clear if our information's wrong or if their information's wrong, and if it is wrong, then they want to move their fence over.
Right. So what I'm advocating for, as Matt enters the second phase of the review process for the responses received on the RFP, is that we do a fulsome, I want to compare apples to apples. If we say this company came in a lot higher because they're doing everything from scratch, that's acceptable and we're okay with that, versus comparing with a company who might have done some work here in the past and they're going to try and put some things
Piece it back together and make it
Yes.
current.
But is it the old company and a new company? Are the two?
That, and also there's another company that
three bids.
says that they could use the data that we have to just update the computer system that we run, basically.
But to me, we don't have all the data that we want. Like we had talked about needing we have new sewer lines, we have new water lines, like getting all of them into the system.
But how practical is that, and how useful, I guess, is the question. What use do we make out of knowing where the sewer lines are because it's a WSSC problem?
I would say significant when it comes to when we're giving right-of-way licenses for people to use, knowing where that is. If we're talking about fixing, repairing sidewalks, walkways, if we have the information to choose between two options, right now, we don't have that information. So we often do what we did before, which may be where we end up anyway, but at the same time, if we have more information, we'd be able to make a choice based off of having that additional awareness, situational awareness of.
You said all those words.
Night is young.
I just need somebody to parse them. No.
So the question is, we don't know what we want.
Oh, I know what I want.
Right. So how closely does that align with what Doug would like in terms of his work, or Matt for that matter?
But also, what is the cost differential, right?
Yeah,
Like, are we really
right.
getting?
They're significant, but what
Yeah.
I would say is the Turner Lane example one is a real one.
Yeah, but that requires
And
total resurveying.
Right,
Going
and that's
back
the
to
question.
scrap.
That's basically the question, is if we want to do a complete resurvey of Martin's Additions.
But I remember the last time it was done, I was talking to the surveyors, and they were saying these benchmarks are completely wrong. They were done to different standards or different origin points and so on. But the next ones can come in and say the same thing.
But if we know that already, I don't want to continue to rely on those. I mean, we have residents who also rely on the information we give them.
Like-
Trees in the right-of-way. Is it in the right-of-way or is it on their property? Like, we're relying on data that we know is...
Well, when it was surveyed, the surveyor said they were correcting it.
So in the hypothetical, in the example of Turner Lane, right? So each of those bidders, how would they address that problem?
Well, two would do a whole new survey of Martin's Additions and give us a new system that has their own data points, and the other two would use the data points that we currently have. So then we would tell the people on Turner Lane, this is the data that we have. We believe that it's the best data that we can get. If you think that it's differently, you can.
Yeah, if they're going to do anything, they're going to get a survey done on their own.
Yeah, but I sort of find it a little embarrassing if we've spent $60,000 having a survey done, and then people say, it's not even right.
Well, they cannot rely on our survey for their own work.
But we can't rely on our survey for our own work, and that's the part that...
What you're saying, you cannot rely on your survey?
We the
survey
village,
that-
cannot rely on the survey.
AMT did.
So even if we hired someone else to resurvey everything, right, and do it from scratch, how do we know that the problem is not going to be repeated?
Yeah.
Well, that would.
But there might be yes, it's an issue. At the same time, the AMT survey was done 20 years?
No, I was here.
I think 10 years ago, or maybe 12, something like that.
Yeah, the
What's the
land
difference?
doesn't move.
Yeah. But what's the difference in
I
cost?
throw
of the
that in.
sidewalk?
Well, one of the bids was just on a per hourly basis, so they're going to come in and look at it, and then another is, I want to say, 25,000, 20,000, and then the other two are in the 50 to 70,000 range.
So the other thing to keep, not only is there the survey piece of it, but there's also the software and user piece of it.
Yeah.
Right now, these guys don't, correct me if I'm wrong, it is not easy to use, and therefore Wayne and Doug do not generally use the GIS information that we have. Doug has asked for, he's like, if as part of this, it would be great if we had a tool that would calculate when it came to setbacks and stuff. Right now, they go out and do it for every single project.
Yeah, right now we rely on, yeah, that's right. We can use it to say, part of it is you take a starting point and an end point to measure the right of way, for example. And if it's slightly tilted, then it'll change the distance. And so we say, you're in the 12 feet or so range from the edge of the curb to where your property actually begins. But it's not exact.
So you're having discussions with them coming up?
Yeah. I started scheduling meetings. So next.
So what I think we need is to have a better, as Tiffany said, we need a better idea of different scopes of work with similar kinds of costing for those different scopes.
So their approach to measuring,
Yeah.
right? So
Or whether or not they measure at all.
right.
We've got companies who are like, we'll use what you've got right now.
Yeah.
Because we already did it in the past, or we're happy to use what they did in the past.
Right.
Which we know is,
Well, we don't know. The thing is, we don't know whether it's right or wrong.
I thought that we did know that now, based off of our,
Well, we don't know. That's the problem.
It's just one surveyor's opinion.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it has to do with a survey from 1912 is different than a survey that they had from 1975 or something. So then it was, which one's right? What does your GIS system say? Well, ours says this one's right, but
so I
But
guess.
that's a legal issue. That's not up to us.
No, that's right. You're
I
right.
mean-
That's right.
Yes.
I mean, this is what ours is, but you can use it to the extent that you realize we aren't defending
Right,
it.
but if there's a dispute between neighbors, our information is not definitive.
Right, and that's
We do use it to definitively determine front setbacks.
Yeah,
Yes.
right,
And whether or not trees are in the right of way.
right.
And whether or not,
Yeah, trees.
Okay, so it
not-
sounds like we need to do more analysis before.
Yeah.
I'll leave it at this. I advocate for, if we're going to do this now, if we're going through this whole process of looking for companies, like, this is something that's worth spending our village monies on.
Yeah.
And I will say it is common for, if you hire 3 surveyors, they can come up with 3 different answers, and you choose one, and you're relying on that surveyor's professional certification that it's accurate, and that's reasonable to do in practice.
But it is probably important to ask them the same questions.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
I don't know how you want to do that.
Okay. Moving on.
Next contract, leaf vacuuming. So we are going to work with Lee's Trees this fall on a trial basis. They do leaf vacuuming over in Section 5. The way that we figured we'd try it out this year was starting in mid-October. They suggested Wednesday would be the day we do it. Monday would probably be ideal, just because that gives people the weekend to rake it over, but
Mondays are taken.
Mondays are taken because they've been working with them and they got dibs on it. Plus, it actually might be easier that way because Monday we don't have any waste management trucks coming through the neighborhood. On Monday,
No, you mean on Wednesday.
I'm sorry. On Wednesday we don't have any trucks. On Monday they are coming through, so they have to be
Twice, yeah.
working around each other. So we'll do the leaf vacuuming every other Wednesday through October, November. Somewhere around mid-November, we'll assess the situation, see if we want to continue for a week or two into December, depending on how many leaves have fallen, how many are yet to fall.
Right.
And we will still be providing leaf bags to be picked up every Monday. So people don't have to wait 2 weeks in between services. So they come with a great reputation. They gave us a really good and fair price on it. So hopefully people are happy with the service, and we'll go from there. We already sort of had the conversation before the council meeting about, just one last thing is that the next sort of big RFP to come up is that waste management's contract runs out in June of 2018. So soon we'll start working on that.
In our contract, we had a possibility for extensions, I believe.
Yes.
So I think that's a manager-council conversation about whether or not you want to compete it again, or if you want to extend.
Okay.
I have wondered about working with Section 3 and Section 5 with this trash pickup, that we all use the same people and that we all bid it together. And was there a problem you're looking at?
Well,
you've got a bad look here.
It's not necessarily a problem, but it gives us a lot less flexibility on what we want to offer, because we have to agree. They don't do single stream recycling, for example, in Section 3. But I mean, I don't know the details of...
What is single stream recycling?
So they have to separate paper from metal, from plastic. We do single stream, where you just dump all your recyclings in one thing.
Which is a very happy place.
Yes. Yes, it is.
So yeah, I mean, we probably could pool our resources, but it would.
I hear what you're saying. Right. Okay.
So we already had this conversation about Montgomery County and its plans for highways, and I'll just briefly mention again also that they have also recommended 2 streets be included as part of its master bike plan, Cummings Lane and Brookville Road. I had a meeting with Ashley Kavanaugh and the guy who is in charge of the plan, his name's David Ansbacher, to try to get an idea of what exactly that means.
Can we play him against the master plan?
Well, that
arterial? Yes.
I mean, it seems to me that it's sort of tugging in two separate directions. If the idea is to make the streets safe for bikers, to encourage more vehicle traffic, seems counterproductive towards that end. I don't think that there's really going to be a minimal effect on the streets. They're not creating a new bike lane or anything. They might have new markings in the street that have the green background and the white bike symbol, and maybe signs up that say X amount of miles to this place or something.
But we control whether or not they put those on our
That's right. Yes, which we do. So it's
For Cummings, yeah.
Yes.
Not for Brookfield.
Not for Brookville, but yes, so we would work with them if it's something we wanted to go along with.
Yeah.
So WSSC.
Could our police pull bikers over for not stopping at the stop signs?
They are supposed to obey the same traffic laws as motor vehicles.
And they almost never do.
Yes, I mean I agree. I think that, and I actually brought that up at the meeting. That's true. I think the argument is that on this stop sign, for example, vehicles aren't really obeying the stop signs either. So, yeah.
It's wonderful when you pass them and then you get behind cars at the
And then
stop
they
sign. They go ahead and then you have to pass them again on Brookville, which is,
Well, it will slow down traffic on Brookville Road. Getting
It'll
stuck
be
behind
a calming,
bikers.
it'll be traffic calming.
okay, let's move on to WSSC.
WSSC. So,
Perfect storm.
we sent a permit to WSSC. Their legal team is apparently still reviewing it. They have not selected a contractor. So they said that the earliest that they expect to select a contractor would be December at this point. And so then the earliest that they would then start work would be January at that point. That's kind of where we are.
It's really going to be April because
Yeah.
Exactly. I doubt that.
What are we going to get first, streetlights or sewers?
So yes, so I'll skip over trees for the moment and go to streetlights. So Pepco also hit some delays. There was some issue in the procurement division, and then they sent all their crews down to Texas and Florida to help with the hurricane. They're scheduled to come back next week, and then they'll start scheduling crews out. But it's also dependent on if Hurricane Maria causes more damage and they need to send more assistance. But hopefully, he said by the end of the month.
For real.
That's right. That's
Do you want to have an office pool?
right. Yeah. That's what he estimated. I was talking to Jerry Pasternak, who's the government affairs liaison, and he basically said, I can't make any promises, but that's the best estimate I can give you at this point. I'll jump back to trees. There's not much there. We're continuing our tree planting program, and Paul has a preliminary list of trees that need to be taken down. Paul has okayed it, so we're just now going through the state to get their okay, and then we'll take those down and begin plantings.
How many people participated in our planting program last year?
One lucky customer, and
was it Arthur?
No.
So far, I think we have one this year. So I think in a previous council meeting we had briefly discussed whether to eliminate the fee altogether. But the idea was that you want some buy-in so people have some stake in it.
The thing is,
And I don't know that that's really
I
what's
cannot
discouraging
reconcile our experience with Section 5, who said they had 100 applicants the first year. But they didn't have any.
The
any-
welcome, the resident engagement committee, I'm certain could insert something in a bag about the tree planting.
Oh, there's a good idea.
There's
That's a good idea.
Cool. I will bring that up to them.
free ice cream and a free drink.
Almost free trade. Almost right.
Quite free.
And $20
Stand in
worth
the
of drugs.
Joe Cutro has done a sign
Finally.
inventory
Yeah.
for the village.
Is that what this thing is?
I included in the back a sample of Raymond Street. So that's the only product that he sent me.
This,
Don't get sticker shock. He reminded me on Raymond Street because Raymond is a little bit odd in that
It's
all of
long
its parking signs are outdated at this point. So he's going to recommend that we replace all the no parking signs on Raymond. That also happens to be, as Tiffany said, a long street.
When we do replace the signs that say slow children at play, can we replace it with just children? I don't know.
Slow children.
right in front of my house.
That's always
They
been,
don't have slow
that comes up in grammar articles and books all the time. Slow children.
I get a kick out of that one as well. I remember there was was some. Yes.
It should be.
I don't think that I thought we had made a decision that there are no children at play signs going up because of,
Children at play.
yes, that no children are allowed to play. We were putting, no, there could be a issue with our putting up children at play. Isn't that why we were taking them all down?
I don't recall.
I don't remember taking them down. I know we've addressed
I don't ever-
basketball hoops.
Basketball,
sporting
yeah.
goals.
Yeah, but
I
there
don't
was, I
recall
thought there
the
was
sign
something
discussion.
about, that putting those signs up.
Assumes children are going to be playing in the street.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
wait.
Yes, yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
liability.
Yeah, it's suggesting that the streets are appropriate play
That's
places for
right.
children, and that if we're putting up signs, then we are taking reasonable efforts to keep them safe for play. And streets are not meant for playing, and you
Right.
can't reasonably make them safe.
And so that
lawyers
sign
say
should
don't
not
put
go up.
Children at play signs. We should-
So should I?
Unless you're closing off the street.
Okay.
So should I tell Joe that they should be just taken out or
Naughty,
not
you say
replaced?
naughty children at play.
No, they have to be taken out and no new ones erected.
Okay.
And we are replacing the entrance signs, the really old wood ones.
Yes.
Yes.
Are those village signs?
The wood ones.
We need a design.
Yeah, yeah, those are not, regulatory signs that Joe would just get from inventory. So,
Which one are we talking about?
We're
You-
talking-
the wooden
Village of Martins.
Right.
yes,
A
established.
village sign?
Yeah.
Right.
So
So we need to start the process for finding.
Yeah.
who vendor would be to?
That was.
We had a local carpenter do those.
Oh,
Okay.
you're getting a little aged.
Yes.
A little.
But I think he's not available anymore.
He's a little aged as well.
He died.
So he said in the next 2 weeks he'll get me a full list then we can go ahead with. Sanitation. So somebody had the recommendation that we add a trash can on Thornapple Street, which I thought
That's not
was
even
a good idea.
Yeah, I don't see anything wrong with
Especially if people are seeing.
Let's just make sure that we don't have a contractual issue with the trash man picking up the trash.
Okay.
Because I believe we stipulate where they pick up trash from.
Right. Okay.
Don't want to put a trash can out there that no one's going to empty.
Okay. So I'll just follow up and see what impact that would have on our contract with Waste Management. Otherwise, that's it.
Thank you.
Brookville
Okay.
Oh yes, I'm sorry. I skipped over that.
What did you skip over?
Website?
Oh,
Brookville and Taylor. So actually, I think I accidentally deleted it actually on my report. But Andy and I had a meeting with a woman at State Highway. There was a crew out there. They've approved our plan. They are going to begin work in October on redoing the intersection at Taylor and Brookville Road.
So they're redoing a bunch, they're not just going to move the crosswalk.
They are redoing. They submitted 2 potential plans to us, and Joe Cutro had helped us decide which was the best one. They're going with the one that we preferred and included expanding the bump out. One of the handicap parking spot is getting moved to out back. The crosswalks are closer together, and it's going to be in a more squarish intersection shape rather than the way it is now. So
That's, I think, definitely a newsletter item, but also, given the significant interest, when it's about to happen, an actual just email to the residents.
Yeah.
It also would be good to find, we're having the Halloween party, right, also in October?
yes.
The same location, basically?
Yeah, they're going to keep their equipment actually at La Ferme.
Okay.
So,
okay.
Good.
Should be good
Well,
there.
that's
lot.
taken a couple of years.
Yes, so opportunity for council to hear residents' comments.
Janine,
Please.
I'll send it a note to you. Do you have to is there a problem with the no parking signs on Raymond? I mean, do you have to replace them, or are they perfectly good, or are they? Okay. Good. And then about the survey, the survey, can you try like a smaller thing, like whatever, have them do one street and see how that compares to the other guys and see, because it seems like, I don't know, do it in a smaller thing instead of all the streets.
I'm sorry.
Analyze
Like a pilot?
for this, in starting the survey,
The
do a
right-of-way.
prototype, whoever we select, do a prototype of one block
Just do one street. You were talking whatever that problem street, I don't know,
on Turner.
your biggest issue or.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I was thinking annual survey,
No,
not
Sorry.
Land
Right
survey.
away and,
Yes.
I don't know, that was just a night.
Okay.
That's an
Yes.
interesting thing to consider.
But I'd be curious how that would increase costs, right? Because if they have to come out twice,
Well,
maybe
just
not.
I think
see-
there's two pieces. There's like
Yeah.
the survey piece of it, but then there's also the functionality for the staff. Like, are we actually going to use what we have?
And
what
so
we
there's
get.
a software package, a usability.
And also, if we get the different measurements, how do we know that those are the accurate ones?
well, that's why I thought you could
Yeah.
do a smaller thing and and then,
But see, if we have two different measurements, and they're different from each other clearly, but
I
then
mean, right of way and where the tree is on somebody's
all the
property.
property lines.
That's, and then you have another one of checking out the sewer lines or something?
And then we have the older measurement from 12 years ago.
Yeah.
And if they're different, then how do we know which one's right?
Well, that's why not do the whole property. Anyways, try thinking smaller.
If we redo
Okay.
it, then we just use.
And the recycling, I've seen him do this in San Francisco, and out at Granchi, they're up on the recycling. But I know, it was put in that, if we have people that aren't doing the recycling correctly, if they're putting food waste in, it affects me because they charge much more for, it becomes garbage, and that's much more money than recycling. They do in San Francisco, they actually have someone, the monitor, come out when all the recycle bins and look through them and give a note on the recycle bin, and even put that it's garbage so that, it's just notifying, because we've tried to tell them that's important. I don't know if we can legally go through someone's recycling, and I don't know if that's too Californian, whatever for you guys.
Do you know if our
Have we have had a
recycling is actually
problem?
going to recycling, or does our recycling end up in trash?
So the last time I talked to them, they actually said that it wasn't an issue in that where we have a much lower, because they do keep track of that and for those statistics on how much trash are we getting when we pick up recycling, that we're lower than average, but I don't have that was at least a few months ago that I talked to them, so I don't have
But they've never raised this with you as being an issue.
No, they've never raised it as an issue. The only thing I can think of that happened was I had a bulk pick. I think it was bulk. It might have been trash or bulk pickup or something. Somebody put paint in there, so some paint got spilled down the road.
Oh, right.
Okay. Are you done?
Sorry.
Feeney?
It's okay.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? I don't have any idea how to turn it off
Oh,
before we start talking about the residents.
That's a joke.